Move along, nobody important sees you. She's the power behind the jersey on his back, and respect is coming due. Stay with us. What they tried to break became her power because silenced voices don't disappear. They rise stronger than ever. Where in the world are you watching from tonight? Drop your city in the comments. Have you ever rewritten your own story? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Black Stories Untold with Love, and ring that notification bell for more heartwarming stories that celebrate strength. The stadium rises like a living thing against the night sky, pulsing with light and noise and promise. Music spills from open gates, vendors shout, laughter ricochets across the concrete, thousands move with purpose towards something they believe will matter. And just beyond the flood of bodies, just outside the glow that makes heroes visible, Selena Brown stands behind a folding table that wobbles slightly on uneven pavement. The streetlights above her flicker like they cannot decide if she is worth illuminating. She smooths the fabric of a jersey with careful hands. Every stitch is intentional, every color chosen with memory and meaning. These are not replicas ordered in bulk or rushed through factories. They are handmade pieces born from late nights and quiet focus, from a woman who learned early that excellence had to speak louder when her voice was ignored. Her posture is calm, shoulders back, chin level, not defiant, not pleading, simply present. Her beauty is not loud, but it is undeniable. Warm brown skin catching the light, eyes observant and steady, hair pulled back with ease as if she expects no permission to take up space. She does not call out to passing fans. She does not beg for attention. She lets the work speak for itself. Most people do not look. Some glance and laugh softly, nudging each other as they pass. A woman selling jerseys outside the stadium, as if she does not know her place. A dream that looks too big for her hands. A hustle that feels harmless enough to mock. A few stop long enough to smirk. No one stops long enough to ask her name. Selena notices everything. She notices the way laughter sharpens when it is aimed downward. She notices the men who look at her table and then past her face as if she is part of the sidewalk. She notices the women who hesitate, curious, then follow their partners inside without turning back. She notices the security guards who watch her more closely than they watch the crowd. She also notices the silence inside herself, not emptiness. Not fear, but the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly why she is here. This is not desperation. This is not a last chance. Selena is building something and she knows it. Each jersey sold funds the next idea. Each night outside the stadium teaches her something about people, about power, about who is allowed to dream loudly and who must dream in fragments. Inside the stadium, the crowd erupts. A name echoes through speakers. Barry White, the star everyone came to see. The man whose face is on billboards and screens and jerseys stitched by machines that never learned patience. He moves beneath blinding lights, unaware that just beyond the gates, someone is stitching legacy by hand. The roar of the crowd rolls outward like thunder. It reaches Selena where she stands and vibrates through her chest. She closes her eyes for a brief moment, not in longing, but in recognition. She knows this sound. It is the sound of a world celebrating what it already values. She opens her eyes as footsteps approach. Another group passes without slowing. Another laugh drifts past her shoulder. Selena lifts her chin slightly, fingers resting on fabric that holds her future. She is not invisible. She refuses to be. What the crowd does not know is that the sidewalk remembers who stands firm when no one is watching. And some nights, history begins in places people overlook. The stadium breathes around Barry White like a living organism. Lights blaze overhead. Music thunders through steel and concrete. His name ripples through the crowd in waves that feel almost physical, pressing against his chest, filling his ears, reminding him exactly who he is supposed to be. The star, the reason they came, the body in motion that turns noise into meaning. He stands on the sideline, tall and composed, muscles coiled with practiced ease. Cameras find him without effort. They always do. His face has been shaped into something familiar through repetition. Smile here. Nod there. Say the right thing. Mean just enough of it to sound convincing. He has done this dance so many times, it no longer requires thought. Applause built him. Applause carried him from obscurity to elevation. Applause turned talent into currency and silence into luxury. It paid for the house with glass walls and the cars that gleam under showroom lights. It bought him admiration that never asks questions, and loyalty that vanishes the moment he stops producing. The crowd does not see the weight. Barry feels it settling on his shoulders even as they cheer. Every chant sounds the same now. Every compliment blends into the next. He knows what they love about him: his speed, his strength, his ability to deliver when it matters most. They love the version of him that performs on command and disappears when the lights go down. Inside the locker room earlier that night, he sat quietly while teammates joked and laughed. Conversations skimmed the surface of everything: wins, endorsements, weekend plans. He smiled at the right moments and said little. No one noticed. No one ever does when he goes quiet. They assume confidence fills the space where curiosity should live. Barry stares out at the crowd and feels strangely alone. There is a moment just before the game begins when the noise dips and anticipation tightens the air. It is his least favorite moment and the one he feels most clearly. The pause before impact. The space where he wonders if anyone would still know his name if he stopped showing up the way they expect. He remembers being younger, playing for the joy of movement, running because it felt like freedom. Back then, applause was a surprise, a bonus, not the foundation everything rested on. Somewhere along the way, it became the measure of his worth. The announcer calls his name again, louder this time. The crowd answers with thunder. Barry lifts his hand automatically. He does not look at the stands. He looks past them, toward the tunnel that leads outside. He does not know why his attention drifts there. He only knows there is something beyond the boundary of the arena that feels heavier than noise, something real that cannot be amplified or sold. As the game unfolds, Barry moves with precision. His body knows what to do even when his mind wanders. Each play is executed flawlessly. The crowd roars on cue. Cameras capture every angle. Commentators praise his discipline, his focus, his leadership. But between plays, between breaths, Barry feels a pull he cannot name. A sense that the version of himself everyone applauds is not the whole story. That something meaningful is happening just out of frame. When the final whistle blows and victory explodes around him, Barry should feel complete. Instead, he feels hollow in a way applause cannot reach. He walks toward the tunnel, away from the noise, not knowing that just outside the glow of stadium lights, someone is standing still, uncelebrated and unbowed, holding a truth that will soon demand to be seen. The laughter arrives before Barry sees her. It spills through the open tunnel as he steps out of the stadium, still warm from lights and sweat and noise. It is sharp and careless, the kind of laughter that does not bother to lower its voice. It cuts through the night air with the ease of something that believes it has permission. A small group of fans has stopped near the sidewalk, drinks in hand. Jerseys stretched tight across chests that rise and fall with amusement. One of them points toward a folding table beneath a flickering streetlight. Another leans in, whispering loudly enough to be heard. They laugh again, louder this time. Barry slows his steps. He hears words wrapped in humor and cruelty disguised as jokes. Comments about ambition, about how some people should know their place, about how cute it is when someone tries too hard. They speak as if no one is listening, as if the woman at the table is part of the scenery. Asphalt, curb, lamp post, invisible. Selena Brown does not react. She stands behind her table with her hands resting lightly on the fabric of a jersey. Her face is calm, not hardened, not defensive, calm in a way that suggests she has learned how to breathe through moments like this. Her shoulders remain squared. Her gaze stays forward. She does not flinch. She does not shrink. Barry watches from a few steps away, something tightening in his chest. He has heard laughter like this before, in locker rooms, in boardrooms, at parties where power is passed casually between men who assume the world belongs to them. He has laughed along more times than he wants to admit. It has always felt easier than stopping it. But this time the laughter lands differently. Maybe it is the way Selena does not look away. Maybe it is the way her dignity fills the space their voices try to dominate. Maybe it is the quiet truth standing in contrast to the noise. Barry cannot name it, only feel it. One of the men makes a final joke and the group moves on, satisfied, disappearing back into the current of the crowd. The laughter fades, but the moment remains. Selena exhales slowly, not in relief, in resolve. Barry takes another step forward and the street light shifts. Selena lifts her eyes, and for the first time she sees him. Not the star, not the name shouted inside the stadium, just a man standing still when everyone else keeps moving. Their eyes meet. It lasts only a moment, but it lands heavy. Selena sees recognition there. Not pity, not curiosity. Something closer to awareness. Barry feels it too. A sudden clarity. A sense that he is standing in front of something honest and unprotected. Something the crowd did not see because it was too busy laughing. The noise from the stadium swells behind him, but it feels far away now. Applause cannot reach this space. Cameras are nowhere to be found. There is only the sidewalk, the table, the woman who refused to disappear. Barry notices details he somehow missed before. The care in the stitching. The way Selena's fingers trace the edge of the fabric as if it matters, the steadiness in her posture, the confidence that does not ask for approval. He realizes something then, and it unsettles him deeply. The crowd did not miss her because she was small. They missed her because they were loud. Selena breaks eye contact first, returning her attention to her table. The moment passes. Or maybe it does not. Maybe it lodges somewhere inside him and refuses to leave. Barry takes a breath he did not know he was holding and continues toward the parking lot, the laughter echoing faintly in his ears. But something has shifted. A crack has formed in the polished surface of the night, and for the first time, Barry wonders who he has been laughing with. Barry hesitates before stepping closer, aware of the distance between them that feels heavier than it should. The sidewalk hums with movement. People pass in clusters, wrapped in their own conversations, still buzzing from the game. No one notices him slow down. No one notices the woman behind the table either. It feels like a pocket of quiet carved out of chaos. Selena looks up as he approaches, her expression neutral but open. She does not straighten for him or soften herself. She simply waits. That alone unsettles him. He gestures toward the jerseys, searching for something casual to say, something safe. His voice comes out steadier than he feels. He asks how long she has been out here, how business is. Questions that hover at the surface. Selena answers without hesitation. She tells him she has been here all season, that some nights are better than others, that she measures success less by volume and more by consistency. Her tone is warm but grounded. There is no apology in her words, no need to justify her presence. Barry nods, expecting the conversation to end there. It does not. She tells him she designs every piece herself, sketches first, then fabrics, then nights hunched over a sewing machine while the city sleeps. She talks about ownership in a way that feels deliberate, about building something that cannot be taken away with a bad season or a bad headline, about legacy that does not rely on being chosen. Barry listens, not because he is being polite, because he is being pulled in. Selena speaks with clarity. Not grand dreams, but plans mapped carefully over time. She talks about creating space for herself in an industry that rarely makes room, about learning early that if she waited to be invited, she would never arrive. Her words are unpolished in the best way. Honest, lived in, heavy with experience. The laughter from earlier echoes faintly in his mind, and suddenly it sounds smaller, thin, embarrassing. He realizes then that the jokes were not just cruel, they were ignorant, born from a refusal to imagine depth where it was inconvenient, from assuming that ambition looks the same on everyone, from mistaking quiet confidence for lack of substance. Barry feels the shift happen inside him. He has spent years moving through rooms where power leans toward him automatically, where people speak carefully, where admiration is offered before understanding. Standing here now, he feels none of that. Selena does not defer. She does not perform. She does not ask him to validate her work. For the first time in a long while, he is not the center of the exchange. He asks her what made her start. She pauses for just a moment before answering, long enough to suggest the weight of memory. She tells him she wanted to build something that reflected her fully, something she could be proud of even when no one was watching, something that would still exist if the world decided to look away. Barry swallows. The stadium lights behind him flare again as another wave of fans exits, laughter and noise rushing past. It feels distant now, shallow, like a surface he no longer wants to skim. He thanks her for talking with him. The words feel insufficient, but they are all he has. Selena nods, a small smile touching her face, not triumphant or impressed, simply kind. As Barry turns to leave, he feels the weight of her words settle into him. Ownership, legacy, building without permission. He walks back toward a world that suddenly feels louder and emptier than before. Behind him, Selena returns to her work, hands steady, posture unchanged. The sidewalk remains what it has always been. But Barry carries something new with him into the night. A truth he cannot unhear. A conversation the world was not ready for, but one he cannot forget. The shift does not arrive loudly. It does not announce itself. It moves through the city the way fog does, quietly and without permission. Selena notices it first in the pauses. A man lingers longer at her table before walking away. Another asks about sizing instead of price. Someone takes a photo without asking, not to mock, but to remember. The laughter does not disappear, but it thins. It loses confidence. It no longer owns the space the way it once did. Her designs begin to travel without her. A jersey spotted in a locker room, another worn casually by someone with access. A quiet question passed between people who matter in rooms Selena has never been invited into. Who made that? Where did it come from? Does she do custom work? Whispers move faster than respect ever does. Selena keeps working. She arrives on game nights with the same folding table, the same steady posture, the same careful hands smoothing fabric beneath unreliable streetlights. She does not chase the whispers. She does not acknowledge the change. She has learned that attention given too early is attention that demands performance in return. Excellence asks for patience. Barry hears about it from others before he sees it himself. A teammate mentions a jersey he saw that felt different, not louder, better. A stylist asks him casually if he knows the woman selling outside the stadium. The question is framed lightly, but it lands heavy. Barry says little. He listens. He files each moment away. He watches from a distance now. He notices how Selena remains unchanged even as the world tilts slightly toward her. She does not smile wider. She does not speak louder. She does not turn bitterness into fuel because she never needed fuel from people who could not see her. That unsettles him more than the laughter ever did. Barry feels the familiar pull of caution tightening around him. His image is a structure built carefully over years. Endorsements, expectations, the silent rules of what is allowed and what must remain unspoken. He knows how easily attention turns, how quickly support evaporates when the narrative shifts. Standing too close to Selena feels like standing near a truth that might ask something of him. He wants to honor what he sees, the clarity, the discipline, the quiet authority of a woman building something real without applause. He also knows what happens when a star steps outside the lines drawn for him. Barry walks past her table more than once without stopping. Each time feels like a small betrayal. Selena notices him too. She sees the way his gaze lingers and then pulls back. She recognizes that hesitation. She has seen it before in people who admire from a distance but fear the cost of proximity. It does not wound her. It instructs her. She does not need allies who arrive only when it is safe. The whispers grow louder. A buyer approaches with intent. A player asks for a custom piece. Someone mentions ownership in a way that is no longer theoretical. Selena listens carefully. She responds deliberately. She protects her work the way she has always protected herself. Barry stands on the edge of this unfolding moment, feeling smaller than he ever has beneath the stadium lights. He realizes something then that tightens his chest. Success is watching from the shadows, waiting to see who will step forward and who will stay comfortable, waiting to see who understands that dignity does not need a spotlight to exist. Selena continues, stitching her future together, one careful decision at a time. Barry remains still, and the distance between them grows heavy with the question neither has yet asked. Who will risk being seen for what truly matters? The room glows with deliberate elegance. Crystal light spills across polished floors. Voices layer over one another in practiced charm. This is a space built for comfort and performance, where generosity is curated and sincerity is often optional. Cameras hover like quiet witnesses, waiting for something worth remembering. Selena stands near the edge of the room, not hidden, but not centered either. She wears a simple dress that does not compete for attention. Her hands are folded loosely in front of her. She came because someone insisted, because being present matters even when the invitation feels complicated. She watches the crowd with the calm of someone used to being observed without being seen. Then the room shifts. Barry White steps into view, and the energy bends toward him immediately. Conversations soften, phones lift almost instinctively. The star has arrived. He moves with familiar ease, tall and unmistakable. But something is different tonight. He is not dressed in the expected uniform of tailored restraint. He wears one of Selena's jerseys. It fits him perfectly. The fabric carries weight and intention. The stitching is visible beneath the lights. Not flashy, not loud, just precise, authentic. A piece built to last, rather than impress. Murmurs ripple outward as people begin to notice. Curiosity sharpens the air. A host approaches Barry with a smile trained for broadcast. Compliments the look, asks the obvious question. The camera zooms in, hungry for a sound bite. Barry does not hesitate. He names Selena Brown as the designer. The room freezes. For a breathless moment, no one speaks. Laughter vanishes as if pulled from the walls. Applause does not arrive on cue. Instead, there is silence, heavy, complete, the kind that forces people to confront what they have been overlooking. Cameras flash. Selena feels it before she sees it. The collective turn of attention, the weight of eyes landing on her from every direction. She does not move. Her heartbeat remains steady, even as the room reshapes itself around her presence. Barry continues speaking, calm, unflinching. He talks about craftsmanship, about ownership, about talent that deserves recognition regardless of where it is found. He does not soften the moment with humor. He does not dilute it with charm. He simply tells the truth. The silence breaks slowly. Whispers first, then applause that builds uncertainly before gaining strength. It does not feel polite. It feels earned. Selena lifts her chin slightly. She does not smile for the cameras. She does not wave. She does not rush forward to meet the attention. She stands exactly where she is and lets the moment arrive fully. Awe replaces mockery. Respect replaces curiosity. The room sees her now not as a vendor, but as a creator. Barry meets her gaze across the space. There is no triumph in his expression, only resolve. He knows what this costs him. He also knows what it gives. Selena holds his eyes for a moment longer than necessary, long enough to acknowledge what he has done, long enough to recognize the risk. Then she looks away, and the room exhales. The event continues. Music resumes. Conversations restart. But something fundamental has shifted. The night will be remembered not for its donations or speeches, but for the moment silence spoke louder than laughter ever could. Selena leaves before the crowd thins. She steps back into the night air with the same steady pace she arrived with. The sidewalk waits for her, as it always has. Only now the world knows her name, and it will never laugh the same way again. The second silence arrives softer but deeper. It settles after the applause fades, after the room has found its breath again, after people believe the moment has passed. Barry remains where he is, hands relaxed at his sides, the weight of attention still resting on him. The cameras linger, sensing something unfinished. He does not rush. Barry has learned that speed is how people hide. He lets the quiet stretch just long enough to feel honest, just long enough for intention to replace instinct. When he speaks again, his voice does not rise, it does not sharpen. It carries steady through the room with a calm that demands listening. He does not frame Selena as a discovery or a feel-good story. He does not position himself as the hero of the moment. He names her as a partner, as a visionary, as someone whose work changed how he understands value and ownership. He speaks about collaboration, not charity, about respect, not rescue. Then he says it, not loudly, not with flourish, just the truth spoken plainly. He calls her his queen. The words ripple outward like water meeting stillness. People shift in their seats. A few inhale sharply. Cameras click again, faster now. The phrase is not romanticized. It is grounded, intentional, heavy with meaning. Selena feels it land before the room reacts. Her spine straightens, but her shoulders remain soft. She does not shrink beneath the weight of the word. She does not glow for anyone else's comfort. She allows it to sit where it belongs. Not as possession, not as elevation above others, as recognition. She feels seen without being exposed, honored without being owned. Barry looks directly at her as he speaks. There is no claiming in his gaze, only alignment, an acknowledgement of who she already is rather than who he wants her to be. The room does not know how to hold this moment. Some applaud again, slower now, more deliberate. Others remain still, recalibrating. Conversations begin forming in people's minds before they reach their mouths. Narratives shift mid-sentence. Assumptions scramble for new footing. This is not the story they expected. Selena steps forward when invited, not pulled, not ushered. The lights find her, and for a moment the room sees the fullness of her. The calm authority, the quiet strength, the woman who did not arrive here by accident or permission. She speaks briefly, her voice steady. She thanks no one for believing in her. She thanks herself for building something worth standing beside. She speaks of work and patience and the power of being underestimated. Her words do not seek approval. They offer truth. Barry listens from a few steps away. For the first time in his career, he is not the center of the moment, and he does not feel diminished by it. He feels anchored, aligned, honest. The cameras capture everything, but they miss the most important shift. The way the room stops consuming and starts witnessing. The way dignity rearranges the air. By the time the event ends, the story is already being rewritten. Headlines forming, opinions pivoting. People who once laughed now searching for language that makes them sound like they always knew. Selena does not stay to hear it. She leaves through the same doors she entered, walking back into the night with the same measured pace. Outside, the lights soften. The sidewalk welcomes her without ceremony. Barry watches her go, knowing something irreversible has occurred. He spoke her truth aloud, and in doing so, he spoke his own. The world will talk about this night for years. Selena will remember it simply as the night respect finally caught up with her. The noise does not follow them home. When the cameras fade and the doors close, what remains is quieter and more demanding. No applause to lean on, no headlines to hide behind. Just two people learning how to exist in the absence of spectacle. Barry and Selena begin slowly. There are no grand entrances or public declarations. No need to prove anything. They meet in ordinary places where no one is watching closely. A small cafe with uneven tables and chipped mugs. Evening walks, where the city exhales and the sidewalks remember their names. Conversations stretch without performance. Barry listens, not with the intent to respond or impress, but with attention that stays. He learns the rhythm of Selena's thoughts, the way she pauses before answering questions that matter, the way she chooses words carefully when truth requires precision. He resists the urge to lead, to fix, to turn moments into momentum. For the first time, he understands that presence is not passive. It is an act of respect. Selena watches him change without rushing him. She notices the way he asks instead of assumes, the way he waits, the way he makes space rather than filling it. She allows herself softness in these moments, not the softness of surrender, but of trust. She laughs more freely. She rests her head against his shoulder without fear of being diminished. She does not shrink to fit his world. Barry does not ask her to. They build something private and intentional, a connection that does not require an audience to exist. They cook together in kitchens that smell like warmth and time. They argue occasionally, honestly, without spectacle. They learn each other's silences. They name boundaries and honor them. There is power in that. Barry feels it most when he steps back into the public eye. Interviews still come. Attention still follows. But something has shifted. He no longer reaches for validation the way he once did. He knows where his grounding lies. It is not in chance or metrics or approval. It is in being known by one person who sees him fully. Selena continues her work with steady focus. Opportunities arrive now, but she chooses carefully. She does not let access dictate worth. She does not trade integrity for speed. Barry supports her without inserting himself. He shows up when asked. He stands back when needed. He learns that love does not require ownership to feel secure. They protect what they are building. There are moments of doubt, nights when the world presses in and old habits whisper. Barry fears becoming a distraction. Selena fears becoming a symbol rather than a person. They speak these fears aloud and let them breathe. Nothing festers in silence. Love without pedestals demands honesty. It demands the courage to be seen without elevation, to be valued without being placed above others, to choose each other not because the world is watching, but because it feels right. One evening, they sit together on a quiet stoop as the city settles around them. No phones, no plans, just the sound of life continuing. Barry reaches for Selena's hand and she intertwines her fingers with his, natural and unforced. In that moment, neither of them feels larger than life. They feel real, and that is enough. What they are building will never trend or go viral in the way their first moment did. It does not need to. It exists without permission. A love rooted in dignity does not ask to be crowned. It simply stands. The cost arrives quietly at first. A meeting rescheduled without explanation, a call that ends too quickly, a contract review that suddenly requires more scrutiny than it ever did before. Barry feels it before anyone names it. The subtle withdrawal of warmth, the shift in tone that suggests concern without accountability. People begin asking careful questions. Is this relationship a distraction? Is this the right image? Is this necessary right now? Barry listens without interrupting. He hears the unspoken truth beneath the language. Comfort is being threatened. Expectations are being challenged. The version of him they were comfortable celebrating no longer fits cleanly inside their plans. An endorsement pauses. Another hints at reconsideration. A brand he helped build quietly explores alternatives. No one says it is about Selena. Everyone knows it is. Barry sits alone in rooms once filled with easy affirmation and realizes how conditional it always was, how fragile applause becomes when it no longer serves itself. Selena feels the weight too. Messages arrive disguised as concern. People who never noticed her work now analyze her intentions. Her ambition is reframed as strategy. Her love is reduced to leverage. The word opportunist floats through conversations like smoke. She does not defend herself. She has learned the difference between explanation and erosion. She knows that clarity offered to people committed to misunderstanding only feeds the fire. She continues working, continues building, continues choosing patience over performance. The pressure tightens around them both. There are nights when exhaustion presses hard against resolve. Moments when Barry wonders if stepping back would make things easier. Moments when Selena considers how much quieter her life would be if she walked away. They speak these thoughts aloud, not to persuade each other, to honor the truth of them. Barry admits fear without shame. Selena admits anger without apology. Neither minimizes the other. Neither promises rescue. They sit with the discomfort together and let it be real. Love rooted in truth does not offer escape. It offers companionship. Barry makes choices that close doors. He declines opportunities that require silence. He walks away from conversations that frame Selena as a liability rather than a person. Each decision costs him something tangible. Each one grounds him more deeply in who he is becoming. Selena refuses to shrink to make the world comfortable. She refuses to soften her success to soothe fragile egos. She does not allow herself to be framed as a beneficiary of proximity. She stands firmly in her work and lets the results speak where she will not. They do not rescue each other. Barry does not save Selena from scrutiny. Selena does not shield Barry from consequence. They do not rewrite the world to make love easier. They walk side by side. Some nights that is enough. Other nights it is everything. The backlash grows louder before it begins to lose interest. That is how it always goes. People tire of outrage when it requires effort. They move on when spectacle fades. What remains is quieter and more honest. Barry notices which voices stay, which relationships survive without convenience, which partnerships were built on integrity rather than image. The list is shorter than he expected, and somehow that brings relief. Selena feels lighter too. There is clarity in knowing exactly what she is willing to endure and what she will not. There is strength in choosing love without losing herself. There is dignity in walking forward even when the ground is uneven. They sit together one evening watching the city settle into itself. No decisions left to make for the day, no battles to fight. Barry reaches for Selena's hand and she squeezes it gently. They have paid the cost, and what they hold now is something comfort could never afford. The table is different now. It is solid wood instead of folding metal, wide enough to seat many hands, steady enough to hold history. It stands in a sunlit room where voices overlap in multiple languages, where fabric samples and sketches are passed with care. Selena Brown moves through the space with quiet authority, her presence calm and assured, her name spoken with respect by people who once would have walked past her without looking. Her brand lives far beyond the sidewalk now. It travels across cities and oceans. It appears in places that once felt unreachable. Yet Selena still remembers the uneven pavement, the flickering streetlights, the way laughter used to skim her skin like rain that never quite soaked in. She remembers because she chooses to, because forgetting would mean losing something essential. She has not lost herself. Barry stands beside her, not in front and not behind. He is older now in ways that have nothing to do with age. The Polish remains, but it no longer defines him. His confidence is quieter, earned. He watches Selena speak with designers and partners and investors and feels something deeper than pride. He feels gratitude. He learned humility the slow way, through listening, through loss, through choosing integrity when comfort would have been easier. He learned that love is not proven by protection, but by respect. That partnership means standing steady without taking over the frame. They have built this together. Not a fairy tale, not a redemption arc meant for consumption. A life. One shaped by choices made when no one was watching and reinforced when everyone was. The laughter that once followed Selena has vanished, not because it was confronted, but because it no longer made sense. Respect replaced it quietly. Inevitably, the world adjusted the way it always does when excellence refuses to be ignored. Selena does not carry bitterness from the past. She carries memory. There is a difference. Memory keeps her grounded. It reminds her why she builds tables instead of pedestals, why she creates space instead of hierarchy, why she always leaves a seat open for someone still standing on the sidewalk with a dream stitched by hand. Barry understands this now. He knows what it means to be chosen freely, not because of status or noise or expectation, but because of who he became when comfort was no longer the goal. He knows that love offered without ownership is the rarest kind. They sit together at the end of the day when the room empties and the light softens. Papers stacked neatly, fabric folded with care. The table between them holds more than work. It holds the quiet evidence of a life built with intention. Selena rests her hand on the surface and smiles. Not for anyone else. For herself. Barry reaches for her hand and she meets him easily. No hesitation, no performance. The woman they underestimated stands exactly where she belongs, not crowned by applause, but by self-worth, by partnership, by love freely chosen. And that is a victory no crowd could ever give or take away. Before you go, carry this moment with you. What you just witnessed is proof that silence can shake rooms and dignity always outlives dismissal. Share this story and let truth travel farther than judgment. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, drop a comment, and share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe to Black Stories Untold for more stories that uncover hidden struggles, celebrate strength, and remind us that every voice matters.